Washington has perhaps had the most underrated spring transfer portal window. To talk about it, we have Roman Tomashoff, host of Locked On Huskies here at the network. 10 players added in the spring transfer portal window. Roman, that's infinite percentage points more than Clemson has added this entire transfer portal cycle. They've added 0, of course. So this spring window has been a productive one for the Huskies. Is that going to translate to more success on the field than some people might expect?
Well, Spencer, they still need to add more is the thing. But I would certainly say so, where there are a lot of the guys that I think could step in and be productive players right away. You think of the big three right off the top. And this isn't just, obviously it's a little beyond the spring window, but it's Will Rogers, it's Drew Azzopardi, the right tackle from San Diego State. It's Jeremiah Hunter, who you and I were just discussing pre-show, who has just been fantastic throughout spring camp. But yeah, absolutely, where the more I look at it, there are guys like D'Angelo Titiali, the center from Portland State, who I think is going to come in and certainly have to probably start right away along this offensive line. I wanted to say compete, but just with the state of this offensive line, he's probably going to have to step in and start right away. You can say the same thing about Enoch Vimahai from Ohio State, who's coming in. Hayden Moore, the linebacker from Michigan, one of the more recent transfers in, he's probably not going to have as much of an impact this year with 4 seniors at the position, but there's certainly going to be a lot of transfers making an impact on this team this year.
So they've added 2 offensive linemen in the spring transfer portal window, and you said they needed to add more. Last time we talked portal here on the show with regards to the Huskies, you said very openly, like, they need to add, I don't know, an entire offensive line, basically. So are the 2 guys they've added, one of them the Portland State center you alluded to, but are they still missing starters, or are they missing depth up front?
Yes, is the answer. So I'll run you through right now my starting offensive line, where right now at right tackle it's Drew Azzopardi. He's got that locked down. He's been excellent. Right guard is going to be a competition. Center is going to be a competition. Left guard, I think when he comes back from injury, Guard Memolar is going to lock down that spot. Like I know the last time I was on here, like I said, he should have been the starter last season before he got hurt and had missed the entire season. Left tackle, there's going to be a competition. So there were only 10 scholarship bodies in the room, and only 8 of them were able to participate, where a couple of them were weren't able to enroll early at Washington. So it was looking pretty bleak along the offensive line there for a little while. So there still needs to be depth, and you need to find 1 or 2 starters. They missed out on Marcus Bryant, the SMU transfer who chose Mizzou. They missed out on Chris Adams, who had originally committed to Washington out of Old Dominion and then decided to flip to Memphis. So they're still certainly looking for both starters and depth.
Yeah, and that's something I think going into fall camp that is probably the biggest question for Washington. Who's going to be the starting offensive line? Because, look, the impressions of Washington from last year, lost your head coach, you've lost 20, or is it 21 of 22 starters?
20, yeah.
Yeah, 20 of 22 starters from last year's national championship run. And it's just going to be this big reset. And I think at some level it is. I don't expect Washington to be a Big Ten title contender, especially with their schedule this year. They've got some really, really tough opponents to play. But the more I look at this transfer portal class, Roman, this is a top 10 portal class in the entire country. Now, some of that is volume because they've landed 26 commits, but they've landed 26 commits, and a lot of those guys are going to play. And yeah, Will Rogers is the starting quarterback, and Jeremiah Hunter, who, as we were discussing before we recorded the show, grades as a 3-star transfer on 24/7 Sports. I don't buy that at all. I think that guy is a 4-star caliber player and will be one of the top options this year. So has this spring transfer portal window, combined with the first transfer window back in the winter, has that altered your perception or your confidence level about Washington going into this year?
Spencer, first of all, with all due respect, it's 25. One of the guys on the 247 list is still Trey Watson, the Fresno State tight end who committed to Kalen DeBoer, and then backed off and is now Texas A&M. So that's on 247. That's not on you.
My apologies.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. But the more I look at this list, there are going to be so many contributors, and I think that it's going to come down to the offensive line. That's the only way to put it. because as I look up and down this list, I see Jonah Coleman, who, as I predicted on our show over on Locked On Huskies, one of my bold predictions for the year, is that he's going to have 10 plus touchdowns. I could certainly see that happening. Jordan Shaw is going to come in and start in the nickel. He's been excellent throughout spring camp. You could say the same about Ephesians Prysock on the outside of cornerback. I look at somebody like Isaiah Ward. I've been really happy with him. And these are all guys coming over from Arizona. And then that's a big part of this as well, is a lot of these transfers are members of Arizona's 2024 freshman class, where you look at guys like Rashawn Clark, you look at Jordan Washington, who just transferred in the other day, Damon Williams, probably the biggest piece out of all of this, who's just a super talented quarterback. I've loved watching him. Adam Muhammad, who's running back that I've been really, really impressed with. There are so many guys that certainly are going to make an impact, Spencer, as you said, but there are a couple other guys on this list that are just part of that 2024 class that are counted as transfers that are part of this as well. But they all look like really, really talented pieces that are going to be part of this team for years to come.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of transfers, and they're going to make an impact, but still more work to be done, not just necessarily along the offensive line. Washington's been tied to Arizona State transfer wide receiver Elijah Badger, and I think he is probably the most singularly impactful player in the transfer portal right now. And just for those who might not know or might be confused, you can only enter the portal at a certain time. You can exit at any time. And there are going to be, I talked on a recent episode of the show about the impact players that are still in the portal. Cormani McLean is still in the portal. Elijah Badger is still in the portal. There are a lot of guys, and Badger's a guy at wide receiver who I think can be a wide receiver one. Now at Washington, of course, he wouldn't need to be that. You have Denzel Boston, who you've been impressed with. You have Jeremiah Hunter, who we are both fans of. But if you put Badger into that mix, I think you have a light version, definitely a light version of what Washington's offense was a season ago. Now, Jed Fish calls plays and schemes an offense differently, but you would have a veteran transfer quarterback, and you would have three very capable receivers. And I look at that rumor that Badger, pretty sure he was on a visit to Washington, not that long ago. I look at that and go, boy, that would be one of the best offensive lineup of weapons in the Big Ten with Jonah Coleman at running back, because there aren't that many great quarterbacks. There aren't that many great offenses in the Big Ten.
Absolutely. And that's something where I'm still really high on that. I'd love to see that take happen. They did take Kevin Green, a wide receiver from Arizona that looks like more of a depth guy than anything, who's got a whole bunch of eligibility remaining. I would absolutely love to see this offense with Elijah Badger in it, because one guy that you didn't mention is Giles Jackson, who's been really productive when he's around. He's somebody who's just got really sure hands and can just be a slot weapon. I've liked him a lot. Another guy is Rasheed Williams, who I wrote about a little bit over on Huskies Wire, that's had a really strong spring, a former 4-star recruit that's a redshirt freshman that's been just really, really reliable with the first and the second team. But Spencer, you're 100% right. I would love to see, I know I just said it, but I would love to see Elijah Badger in this offense, and Cameron Davis, the other running back, with Will Rogers. If you want to throw Damon Williams out there every now and again to just see what he looks like at the college level, he would have certainly some great weapons to throw to around him. So I would absolutely love to see that. And I'm really curious to see if they do end up taking him with just some more pressing needs, with a third scholarship quarterback being one, a couple more offensive linemen being another, maybe another defensive tackle. And that right there, if you go 2 offensive linemen, a quarterback, and a DT, that's 4 scholarships. And then that you have one more. So if that's Elijah Badger, hey, I'm more than okay with that.
Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies, the latest from Seattle. Roman, thanks as always for stopping by.
Spencer, thanks for having me.
We talked about Washington's underrated transfer portal class. An underrated team is out in Morgantown. That's coming up.